Hi guys, this is George from Notch to a Notch Dog Training here in California. And as a full-time dog trainer, my job usually entails helping my clients and their dogs become the best dogs they can be and the best teams they can become together. On the puppy cases, usually I help them with nipping, biting, jumping, and all the puppy behaviors, chewing, whining in their crates, and subjects like that. On the older dog cases, usually leash reactivity, separation anxiety, aggression, and multi-dog households. Now, one of my hobbies is competition obedience, and that's what we're going to be covering today. Competition obedience regarding healing, and most closely related to helping you fix any forging problems, crabbing problems, bumping, or the such. Now, we'll define forging as the dog's going ahead of you. We'll define crabbing as the dog's head wrapping around your leg, and we'll define bumping as bumping. So it's good to know our definitions there. So my first point today, it's going to go trying to explain or making sure that we're both on the same page about focal points. So focal point is the main foundation work of having a dog that does not forge, crabs, or bumps and healing. Now, what is your focal point? I'll give you a couple seconds. So my focal point for my dogs has changed depending on which dogs I have trained. I have trained 4 competition obedience dogs so far, and my very first dog was Mandy, or is Mandy. She's 11 years old right now. And when she was younger, the way I taught her to heel was by having her follow a cookie. Very simple. We all probably started like that. Basically, you get a cookie out, you let them sniff the cookie on heel position on your left side, and then you make them follow it. As they keep on healing on and getting better, you bring your cookie from this side to this side. So that's how Mandy learned how to heel. Every technique has its faults and its benefits. That's just how Mandy learned. As I got a little bit better and I got my first planned competition obedience dog, which was Shaylee. With Shaylee, I moved my focal point from being my hand, which I was using for Mandy, to being anywhere under my armpit or my underarm. And the way I taught her to heel was by either placing a ball or a toy right under there, using a wall as a barrier to keep her straight, and just every once in a while checking as to make sure that her position was correct. So if she was correct, I would just open my arm, the toy or the food will fall, she would catch it, and that will be that. That's how she learned how to heel. With Enya, my third competition obedience dog, I moved my focal point a little bit farther back, and that became my elbow. So basically I taught Enya to do target training, and by doing so I basically just or drew a circle on my elbow with a Sharpie and taught her to target that point, whatever that point was. Elbows usually was her focal point, and to learn to follow it. Now for her, when I taught her this, there was not a treat next to it, there wasn't a toy next to it. She had to touch it for the toy or the reward to appear later on. So it was a little bit different than how I had taught Mandy and Shaylee, where they both had a reward right and in their sight, and they could reach it right away. So with Enya, I had her work a little bit harder. She had to target that focal point or that target, and then the reward will come. And then in time, I taught her to ignore everything else. So I was adding stationary healing with distractions, so I would just move a treat around it, and she had to keep her nose touching my elbow. Now that's for Enya. For Kaya, I haven't quite chosen a focal point yet, but for the matter of this video, we'll call it my mouth. My mouth is going to be my focal point for Kaya for this video. So every dog has had a different focal point. The trick here, and what makes dog trainers better, is to always be consistent about their focal point. Always expecting the dogs to follow it and not getting lazy with allowing anything less than perfect focal point position. However, that might be depending on your dogs. So my second point today for this video is teaching stationary attention first. So if you're teaching your dogs a focal point, you need to teach them that that focal point is not going to move while they're learning. After they learn the game, then you can start walking. But while they're learning that game, you should not be walking and teaching the focal point at the same time. Because the dogs will get all discombobulated, they will not know what to follow. They can only really, when they're young, do one thing at a time. So let's just make them do that focal point following or targeting, very precise. And if that takes a year, 2 years to make it like 100% awesome, then that's how long it takes. The 3rd year of their life, then they can work on walking. But make that foundation really stick in their brains, because once you add the movement, everything will be much easier. And if you rush things too quickly, then everything is going to fall apart. So one game to teach stationary attention can either be by teaching them to follow a target on your elbow, and without walking, just either sitting or standing, rewarding that and teaching them to hold that position for up to a good, I would say, 15-20 seconds. Kind of like a stay, kind of like working on stays basically, while they're just looking at that focal point without losing attention. Another game that you can do, this one is based on some of the Sylvia Bishop games, which I think is an awesome trainer with lots of experience. If you guys have a chance to go see her seminars, I will highly recommend it. You will not be disappointed. So one game for this would be the cookie behind your back game. And on this game, I have Kaya here with me today, which is going to help me demonstrate this game. So in this game, you're going to activate the dogs first. So activate the dogs just means wake them up. So don't just get them out of their crates and start training them, because they're going to get tired and they're going to be too drowsy. Have them chase a cookie on the floor, have them jump up to get a cookie, rock back and forth, and get them to wake up. Before you start any training, get them to wake up a little bit. And if you like the dogs barking, great. Anything that the dog becomes a little bit more outgoing is going to make them much more pushier and faster in their behaviors. So in this cookie game, you're going to just activate the dogs, make them move, you rock your body back and forth, keep the treats low at about their nose level, and once you see that they're getting into that treat and they're really interested and they're following the treat a little bit more than your body, you're going to make the treat disappear. And you're going to make it disappear like so. So you're going to hold it in front of you. You can do it with your left hand. You're going to make a jump back and forth on this side in front of you, and then you're going to put it behind your back in one quick, swift motion. Do not lure them. They're not following it. It just goes from here to pop, and it disappears. So this activates the dog's curiosity and hunting brain, which all dogs have. So we're just activating that dog brain, and the dogs learn to follow that cookie really quickly, or to look for it at least. And once they find it by using their nose, you have a much faster finish. Now, what happens if the dogs don't find the cookie? Sometimes they don't. Usually on their first 3 tries, they don't find the cookie because they don't know where it went. So you could just kind of make some movement with my fingers. Dogs are wired to follow movement. So if nothing other than your hands are moving, they're going to follow those fingers. You can also add a cue like get it. And if they have a cue for get it as just basically getting a treat from the floor, they will kind of follow wherever that command is going, and whatever that motion of your hands it's following, they're going to go and find that cookie. Now this game is basically going to be like a squirrel running away and hiding in the same spot every time. You're activating the dog's brain and making that hiding spot very predictable, so they know where to go and they go with a lot of energy and intensity. Now when you hold your cookie, make sure that you hold it at the dog's nose level. Do not hold it up too high where they have to climb up your back to get it. Hold it wherever their nose reaches. So if you have a tall dog, it might be easier for you. If you have a shorter dog, Chihuahua, Yorkie, Terrier, you might have to bend over a little bit lower without turning back to face the dog as much as you can. So keep the dogs on that reward. And keep them there and give it to them quickly. So they get one cookie, one behavior, and that's about it for that little part right there. Make sure that after they eat the cookie, you turn to face them. So they don't get any time to disengage. They're going to take about 1 or 2 seconds after you give them the cookie to chew the cookie, swallow it, so that's a second. After there, you should already be facing them so you don't lose any eye contact. Usually they chew with their mouth down so they don't choke, and after they're done chewing, they will pick up their heads, and you're right there to face them on that same moment. When you bring your cookie back behind your back, bring it right behind, right in the middle of your body, right in between your butt cheeks, at their nose level, of course. So let me demonstrate this with Kaya, and I will get some cookies ready. And whenever you have cookies, make sure that they're already cut up and that you have good tasting cookies. Hot dogs, cheese work really well for this game, and that you have a few extra cookies in your mouth just to be able to reload the game really fast. So I'm getting Kaya here. She's resting and chewing on the bone, ready to go. Good. And here are my cookies. So I'll have a few. I have about 3 cookies in my mouth. Good girl, ready? Aye, good girl. Activate them, wake them up. She was just taking a little nap there. Have them jump up to get the cookie. Have them chase the cookie if they know circles. Good. There you go, Kaiki. Good. Have them chase the cookie over here. Kaiki, good girl. If you have a magic word, like Sylvia Bishop has the word or the phrase, what's this? If you have a magic word like cookie, treat, do you want to train, any training phrases that have been attached to the dog's brain, meaning we're going to have some fun, wake them up with that word. Wake them up using that phrase, and that will get the dogs engaged to you much faster. Good girl. Ready, ready, ready. Good. 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 Have them chasing you. Get your first cookie. Lure them. Chase them, chase them, chase them. And then the cookie goes behind my back. She goes behind me. She's parallel. Hold your hand low to their nose. Good. And as you're eating the cookie, you reload your cookie with your next cookie. So this game uses a lot of treats. So make sure that you have them all ready to go. I'm already loading my second cookie. I'll do it from here. Bring the dogs in front of you. Have them chase the cookie at nose level. Good girl. And bring them back behind your back. Good. Keep the treat low. And as you're eating the cookie, turn to face them and you're right there with them ready. Cookie, cookie. What's this? Good girl. Oh, my little girl. Good girl, Kaiki. Good. What's this? Ooh, yum, yum. Good. Bring them back. Turn to face them and reward. Up, 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 up. Leash, leash. If you're finishing your session, use your leash to reward them. Because you might not have too many cookies to give at the end of that session. But if you're ending the training session, end it with some games and some tugging and some fetching. Hopefully more of the tugging, because that builds a little bit more of a relationship with you. The fetching game, I will save it for maybe just playing fetch with them. When you're playing tugging with them, make sure that you don't bend over them. Bending over them pushes them away, and that's going to keep them away from you. I want them to be closer. Once they get bored, they start looking down. Ready? Up, up. So have them jump up onto your space, lean back, brace yourself if you have a big dog. And this is not going to encourage jumping up on you unless you let it go kind of lazy and you don't have rules for this game. So I want the dogs to be jumping up on my space only if I request it. If I don't request it, I'm going to have the dogs jump up in the air, kind of like Shaylee does, because she's so heavy and so large. If she jumps on me without me being ready for it, she'll knock me over. So I have cues for every little bad behavior or fun behavior that I teach my dogs. I have cues for every little thing. So up, up, up means come up on my chest. Good girl. Up, up, up. Up, 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 up. Good girl. And she comes full strength, but she's not allowed to jump on my chest without permission. So something else to remember when you're playing tug, unless you're leaning on your chest, keep all 4 of their feet on the floor and tug the leash towards your knees as to not bang their front feet on the floor like this, because that also creates a lot of bending over them. So as much as you can, pull in and lean back. So that's for that very first game. Remember to always treat from behind the dog. Do not treat from in front of the dog for this foraging, crabbing, and bumping tutorial video. There are cases when you would treat from in front of you, but this might not be the one for this. Alright, so let's put Kaya away so she can take a little break. Okay, good girl. And while we're doing that, you guys can get a couple crackers or some cookies to take a little break and keep on following this tutorial. So on our third point today, it's me covering how does your body positioning influences your dog's position on heel position. So that's something that we all want. We all want the dogs to stay with us, to stay straight, to not forge, to not lag, to not go wide, and not bump you as well. But sometimes we forget that we are the ones driving this game. We are the ones that's supposed to keep everything the same at every step that we take, keep their attention focused, keep everything constant so they can follow those constant rules that are always the same. Now we'll start with our body parts and how they influence their behavior, the dog's behavior. And I'll start with your eyes. So we'll go from our way up all the way down to your feet. So the first one is your eyes. Your eyes should be straight ahead, the same direction you want to go, as the dog should be when they're heeling. We're both looking in the same direction, going to that path that we want to go to. If you're heeling, your eyesight should be about 6 feet ahead of you, 6 to 4 feet ahead of you. Think of headlights on a car that don't shine right in front of the car, but they're farther away, so you can take the precautions that you might need if anything comes up. So look straight ahead and angle your vision about 6 feet ahead of your steps. Your eye cue should be used to cue left turns, about turns, right turns, or any change of pace that you might be doing or walking into. So that will be the only time your dogs get to see your eyes. And that would be when you're cueing. They see very clearly a little bit of twitching of your eyes going to the left. They will notice that if they're right here. Now, if you want to look at them, release them, turn to face them, and have the dog face you at the same time you're facing them. That's the only time you both get to see each other's eyes on a straight line. If not, back to heel position, and we're both looking straight ahead to where we should be going. The shoulders. Your shoulders are going to play a very big part in how your dog heels, especially regarding forging on your larger size dogs. If your shoulders are forward, are too much forward, your dogs are going to lean into that, and the dogs are going to be over here trying to look at your face or follow that focal point. The moment you start running, the dogs are going to pick up much more speed, and they're going to forge even more, and then when you change paces, they're going to bump you. So to fix that problem, try as much as you can to hold your shoulders back. Straight posture makes the dogs heel better. The straighter you are, the better they heel. And both shoulders level to each other. Don't have one farther back than the other far ahead. Have them both level at each other so your body's balanced and is pulled back like this. This is going to bring the dogs back a little bit. Your forearm, which will be one step lower of your forearm of your left arm, make sure that it is next and against your body if you're heeling for AKC obedience, because the dog's top line is going to follow that line of your forearm. So if you're heeling with what we call chicken arms, which are your arms sticking out where you see an opening in there, the dog's butt is going to flare out this way. If you try as much as possible to wrap your forearm really against your body as much as you can while they're holding your shoulders back, the dogs are going to be really tight and really holding back and cueing on that forearm. So make sure that that forearm stays close to your body so that they follow better. Now going down a little bit more, your hips. If when you're heeling and you're trying to hold your shoulders back, what's going to help you hold them back even farther is trying to keep your hips ahead of your shoulder line. So this is straight ahead. Trying to keep your hips ahead of you just slightly is going to make you lean back a little bit more and project that energy forward that you want the dogs to be looking at. So keep your hips forward ahead of your shoulder line. If you're doing a bow turns, make sure that you're keeping your knees tight. So the whole time you're in that bow turn, that will be a clockwise around bow turn, or even a left bow turn as well. Keep your knees touching on that little section of that bow turn. And as soon as you come out of there, keep your feet level right under the line of your shoulder. And that will be my last part of this game, or this explanation. Keep your feet level to your shoulder line and tight for a bow turn. So tighter footwork is going to give you a much tighter heeling. If you walk with your legs really spread apart, the dogs are going to wobble back and forth, and they're going to bump you and go wide, bump you and go wide. So the closer you are, the straighter you are, shoulders back, eyesight straight ahead, hips forward. It's going to project that energy forward, and the dogs are going to go with you. Now on footwork shape, there is two very simple footwork placements for just regular simple movements, and one of them is a T shape. So on the T shape, we usually start with our feet parallel to each other, like they're right now with me, with my feet right now. And you're going to bring your left foot to the back of your right foot, just like this. And they're very tight, and they're touching actually. The back part, the ball of my right foot is right indented in the arch of my left foot. Really close, really tight. And then my feet come together to a parallel line. So you just move one, and you bring it back to the same location. Move one back, keep it back to the same location. And that will be for any time you reward, or any time you're taking a left turn or a right turn or so. So the game for this, let's reload some more cookies. And for this game, we're going to need a cone. And Sylvia is very big on using cones because it helps her remember as to where to look. There's a very big focal point game, and Sylvia has really awesome games for this. So we need a cone. This cone is about 2 feet high. It's about at Kaya's shoulder height. So that will help you as well whenever you're heeling, to get a cone that mimics, or it's really close to your dog's shoulder height. So in this game, we're using the cone as a barrier of sorts, just some environmental pressure. Good girl. So while you're having the dogs move around, make sure that your eyesight stays on the top of the cone and does not follow the dog or follows the cookies. And while you're having the dogs follow the cookies, you're going to make that T shape that I just went over. So your feet stay parallel. On this game, your left foot walks towards the cone, your left foot only. You treat in position, and then you lure the dogs around. It's going to be kind of like a figure 8 of sorts on a loop. So before I start with Kaya, the treat comes from here. Your left leg steps forward. Bring the dog straight ahead. Keep the dogs there for a second. Reload that left hand with a cookie from your right hand. Good girl. And then bring the dogs around the cone. This is going to create a little bit of tightness. And as we all know, dogs like to squeeze out of tight spots, which makes them go into that heel position much faster. So let me try it from this angle. Here we go. We need 2 cookies for this game. The dogs start behind you. Your left leg steps forward towards the cone and bring the dogs right there. Good. Reload the cookie. Keep your eyes on the top of the cone. Lure the dogs in between you. Make your T shape with your feet. Keep your eyes on the top of the cone. And when you're rewarding, they get a cookie behind your back like the very first game. And on this game, their secondary cookie comes out here by the cone. So they do not get a treat on heel position. And notice also they do not have to sit at heel position. So we're not working on sitting and halting. We're just working on getting a quick little go to heel movement. Very snappy, very quick, and just that's the game. In and out, in and out, in and out. Using pressure, using a little shoot right here, going into heel position, while not being overwhelmed by any eye pressure that you might feel like you have to give them. So that's where you need to keep your eyes on the top of the cone at all times. If you want to look at the dogs, turn to face them. And now we go back to the very first game that I explained a few minutes ago. So that's for that cone game, right? Good girl, Kaigi. Good girl, Kaigi. Good. Put your dogs away. Get your treats ready. Get your notepads ready. And let's keep on going. Here we go. All right, so the breeds that are going to be more likely to be foraging and crabbing around you are going to be any upright herding breeds. And that, you guys might know, there's a bunch of them. The more powerful they are, the more pushy they are, the more up and forward they are, the more they want to come around your leg and forward and bump you. So make sure that you always reward from behind to encourage that back motion, and that you're very aware of that focal point as well. And one game to prevent this from happening is teaching the dogs to do a kickback stand. And before I go into that, when you're heeling with an upright herding breed, make sure that you're not starting heeling from sitting. If you do not have a kickback stand, the dogs are going to sit, and being that they're so long body and so upwards and pushy, they're going to, on that very first step, they're going to already be ahead of you because they want to, there's too much torque, there's too much strength in their bodies, and they just want to keep pushing forward. So that's why Sylvia recommends a kickback stand on that first step. And the dog should know this game is very simple, and it helps you prevent a lot of foraging problems. So Kai is ready to go again. Let's make sure that we have enough cookies. And there's a lot of pressure on this game, so you're going to need cookies to cover up that pressure. And the way in which we cover that pressure is by having a cookie in your mouth and drawing all the dog's attention to look at your face while you're maneuvering, fixing, touching, and correcting any posture in their bodies. Do not correct posture if you do not have a cookie to distract them, because they're going to go and move towards you're trying to fix, and they're going to move some more, and then it just becomes a vicious cycle of moving and fighting the dogs. So cookie in your mouth. What I would like the dogs to do is to sit first, then you're going to step over the dogs, and the dogs will be sitting under you, in between your legs. Meanwhile, looking at the cookie that's coming out of your mouth. While you're doing that, hold their collar so they don't go anywhere, and you're going to tuck their back legs or their back hocks under themselves. Usually when you have a young puppy, their hocks stick out like that. So I want them to start parallel. Each time you are heeling with them, make sure that you correct this position so it's always straight and that their front feet are level to each other. So how do you fix their front feet is by, after you tucking their back legs and they're level to each other, keep them on the cookie so they don't get all weirded out by all this pressure. Lift their collar about 3 inches upwards, which is going to pick up their front feet. Then slowly bring them down. Depending on the softness of your dog, sometimes you can do it a little bit more pushier. If they're soft, Kai is quite soft, so I'm going to just lift her gently and make sure that those two front feet land parallel to each other. So now she's very square, she's very tight, and then I can entice that kickback stand a little bit easier. And the way I'm going to do that is by holding her collar and using my back leg either left or right, and I would recommend that you use one left leg for one and the left leg for the next rep. That way the dogs learn to kick back straighter. What I've noticed with practice is that if I only use one leg, the dogs learn to push their butts out that way. So keep the pressure parallel. So the way you do that is by holding their collar. Don't look at them, keep them on the cookie, entice them and talk to them, keep them engaged. And then pick up your back leg, just a little side kick under their belly, a little nice little swift upwards movement, which is going to make their back legs kick out of all that pressure and out of that straightness. It's very quick and very easy where they just pop back into a kickback stand. And that's going to help them with that positioning. So let me show you that with her. And she loves this game as well. Hi, Kai. Good girl. Very nice. Good girl. So all the cookies come from my mouth, and none of the cookies come from one hand specifically unless we're playing the very first game. Good girl. So here we are. Nice, nice, nice. I have 2 cookies in my mouth right now. You have a backup cookie just in case. Hi, hi. Good girl. Sit. Good. Nice girl. Sit here. Good. So I'm going to do it sideways. I'm going to hold her collar. Cookie in my mouth. I'm going to step over her. She's not worried because she's busy on my cookie. I'm going to keep her in place. Good girl. Tuck her back legs under. Kai, Kai. Good girl. Tuck her back legs under. Pick up their collar. Make sure that they land straight. Good girl. Cookie with 2 hands if you have a way of holding the leash. Good. There we go. Like this. Then hold them in place. Put some pressure on their shoulder and scoop them from under their bellies. Good girl. Ready? Good. Good. And then turn to face them and a quick little turn right there. Now, because of all that pressure, they're going to slightly push back and shrink in a little bit, especially if they're not used to that kickback scoop under themselves. So make sure that you push them out of those legs or lure them out and then have them spin and go back into drive. Ready, Kaiki? Good girl. Good. When you're doing this luring motion, do not look straight at the dog's eyes because you're going to push away. Just keep them in position. Good girl, Kaiki Kai. Good. Hold their collar. Tuck their legs under. Pick up their collar. Plant them on the floor. Good girl, Cookie. 2 hands on the cookie goes to the dogs. Then hold their shoulders so they don't move their front feet. And the kickback stand comes from my right leg this time. The way we keep everything balanced. So see, right here she's wanting to push out. But if I keep her on the cookie, bring her out, spin her back around, bring her back into my space, she's gonna stay engaged much more attentively and come back and ready to play the game again. Good girl, Kaki Kaki. Good girl. So that's for that kickback stand game, which will be encouraged for any upright breed, herding breeds, because they're so prone to foraging, because they're so pushy. When you want to maintain connections with your dogs during healing, you can use your leash. Don't be afraid of using your leash. Touch your dogs, touch them everywhere, guide them with the leash, push them in, bring them into your space. It does not need to be an aversive, it does not need to be a negative. Just keep them connected. Pump them up with that leash jiggle, and they will keep on going. If you feel like they need a little bit more, always talk to your dog. So good boy, good job, honest praise, a treat after, quick movements, push them back, bring them back, push them back, bring them back, quick little finish around you, and go ahead and heel forward. Don't wait for them. If you wait, they're gonna wait for you, and then we're all waiting from each other, and nobody's going anywhere. Do not attach your face to that healing, because then the dogs are gonna hold back and they're not gonna be as pushy. And our last steps are going to be, let's see, when you're healing, especially with the larger size dogs, make sure that if you're going into slow pace, do not take very short steps, because the shorter steps you take, the more confined the dog is gonna feel, and the more they're not gonna be able to keep up with you. And they're gonna be wanting to go forward while you're trying to hold back with very little tiny short steps. So when you're going into the slow pace, lengthen your strides and hold your shoulders back as far as you can, and look up higher so that you bring everything back and the dogs are holding back with those shoulders. Keep your strides longer, keep your forearm tight to your body, and watch for any bumping that will arise once you change speeds. But if you cue correctly, and if you're switching from your eye being really high up to just barely going to that 6 foot line, spot line, you can bring the dogs back. If you keep everything straight, you can just kind of play with your footwork and keep the dogs balanced. So that's my review for today. I hope that helps, guys. It's getting a little bit dark, so we're losing some light now. But if you have any questions, just send me a message. And I hope that helps for any foraging, crabbing, or bumping problems that you guys might have. Take care, guys.